Friends, in just a moment, we are going to begin the service for Dr. Leslie R., or Les, as many of you know him, Cohen. Just a gentle reminder, if anybody has a cell phone, if we could take a moment to turn it on silent. Officiating our service today is Rabbi Michael Davis.
Dear family and friends, before beginning the opening prayer, I should just comment that we were just here, right, with Les just 2.5 months ago. I was just talking yesterday with Fran here in this chapel, how we sat together. Nobody expected this, right? And yet here we are. Great. Fran's agreeing. It's just to note where we are. So we begin with perhaps the most beloved of all the Hebrew Psalms, one that has given comfort to countless generations. You see it in the handouts that you received or you're receiving. In the inside panel, the 23rd Psalm, I will chant it in the traditional original Hebrew and then invite us all to read it together in the English that's provided. If you're with us on live stream, whatever translation you find will be close enough. I invite you to take in these sounds, these ancient words, as a prayer of comfort. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai rohi lo echsar, bino deshe yarbitzeini, Al mei menuchot yenahaleini. Nafshi yeshovev, nafshi yeshovev, yancheini v'maglei tzedek, ay leman shemo. Am ki elech begeitz al mavet, lo irara, ki ata imadi, sheyiftecha umishantecha. Shivtecha umishantecha, Hema yenachamoni, Taroch lefanai shulchan, Neged tzorerai, Di shanta vashemen roshi, Let us read together the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I would like to read the beautiful words that Fran and the family put together, so they're heard out loud. Dr. Leslie R. Cohen, age 73, beloved husband of 52 years to Francine Cohen, née Brandwein. And I can add the Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral law, the love of her life, as he told me. Dear father of Daniel and Shana, Andrea and Jared, Charrette, proud grandfather of Ellie, Zoey, and Eliana, cherished brother of Marla, remembering John, Ashford, and Mitchell with Beth, Mcelroy, and Cohen. If I mispronounce the names, please forgive me. Les graduated as valedictorian of Niles North High School, class of 1969. In the summer of '68, he was a research student at the Jackson Laboratory in Bar Harbor, Maine, which solidified his desire to join the medical profession. After attending Johns Hopkins University, the University of Chicago, as well as the Pritzker School of Medicine, he did become a physician, specializing in radiology. He began his practice in 1980 in Flint, Michigan, where he also served as an assistant clinical professor at Michigan State University, mentoring and sharing his expertise in interventional angiography. In 1988, Les was appointed chairman of the imaging department at Sturdy Memorial Hospital in Attleboro, Massachusetts, a position he held with dedication for 20 years. Les and Fran raised their family in Warwick, Rhode Island. They were privileged to own a boat that allowed them to travel to Cape Cod and the islands, Long Island, and to Connecticut. After an impressive 43 years in practice, Les retired in December 2023, leaving behind a legacy of excellence in his field. Les was an avid golfer and competitive tennis player. He loved reading both fiction and nonfiction. He took great pride in his family's closeness. He will always be a part of their soul and hold a special place in the hearts of all who were honored to call him a friend. And I inevitably neglected somebody's name, so I apologize ahead of time, and perhaps we can fill that in later. Les and Fred were married 4th of June, 1972. Started dating at 16, but waited till 20 to get married. Let's sing a song of gathering with all these memories and thoughts and whatever you bring. Hine matov u'manaim, how good it is to be together, and how pleasant, how enjoyable it is. Shevet achim gam yachad, brethren seated together. And it's looking out at you, it makes me think that brethren is usually understood in the sense of brethren, people. But if it really boil it down to its origin, brethren is the plural of brothers, family, that real closeness of family that you have, that I pray you carry forth. So let's sing. As you feel comfortable, sing. If you don't know it, just sing la la la. And if you can't do that, just fake it along with everybody else. Hine matov u'manaim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manaim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, 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 shevet achim gam yachad. With those thoughts and sounds in our hearts, I invite you to take a few moments together for private reflections, memories, a prayer if you like. Let's take a few moments of silence together. Psalm 121. I raise my eyes to the mountains, from whence cometh my help. My help is from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not allow your foot to falter. Your guardian will not slumber. Behold, he neither slumbers nor sleeps, the guardian of Israel. Adonai is your guardian. God is your shade at your right hand. By day the sun will not harm you, nor the moon by night. God will protect you from every evil. God will guard your soul. Adonai will guard your departure and your arrival from this time and forever. Shir lamalot, esainai leharim, me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri mehim Adonai, ose shamayim va'aretz. Al yiten lamot raglecha, al yanum shomerecha. Hine lo yanum velo yishan, shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomerecha, Adonai tzilecha, al yad yaminecha. Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka, ve'yareach balayla. Adonai yishmorcha mikora, yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzeitcha uvoecha. Me'ata ve'ad olam. Just want to touch on a note of gratitude. It is the week of Thanksgiving, and I was struck by the conversation we had as we gathered that maybe paradoxically, as quick as it was, I heard gratitude that it wasn't longer. And I was reminded of an experience I had, and you may have heard me tell this before, but it's very real for me. My own father died many years ago now, and I had been with him the night before. I got a phone call from my mother early in the morning. She didn't say anything. It was clear from the tone of her voice I needed to come, what had happened. And I walked into the house, and I noticed that it was bright. I just noticed that quickly while everything else was going on. And it was only later that I was able to reflect on that data point that I had, that it was bright when I walked in the house. And I realized it wasn't that it had been overcast in the days leading to my father's death, and then suddenly the clouds parted and the sun was there just at that moment. That wasn't the case. It had been sunny for the whole week. What had happened was that I could see the sun, that the cloud of suffering, of anxiety, of care, of being in the presence of the pain of a loved one, all of that lifted at the moment of dying. And that was a blessing that I couldn't process in the moment because something much bigger was happening. But that blessing was there. The sun had come out because the suffering had lifted. And I heard a bit of that in what we were talking about, that gratitude that, it's hard almost to say it, but yes, there's gratitude also, but it wasn't more. So we're going to hear some words of love and memory, if you're ready. Mourners are never expected to stand up and speak, but if they are, then we're eager to hear those words. So Daniel and Andrea, if you're ready, I think you wanted to come up together and figure out who's going first.
I want to thank everyone for coming, and I was just thinking, like, my father would have loved for you all to be here, and I appreciate it very much. I thought about why we share at funerals, and what makes sense to me is that this is a way to help process our own feelings and support the people we love and care about around us. So with that in mind, I wanted to share some memories of my father. And we only get one mom and dad. Oh, also, I love that there's a little voice in the room, so
Keep him, please.
he can make as much noise as he wants.
Yeah, don't.
It's totally
From
cool.
me.
Yeah,
My grandmother's
right. So no problem there. We only get one mom and dad. I loved my father very much, and I looked up to him. He was passionate about everything in his life, his work, his hobbies, and his Judaism. He invested a lot of effort into his hobbies, and I think he wanted to excel at everything. Playing bridge, poker, backgammon, I don't think I ever won a game of chess against him. I did learn backgammon pretty early. It was a fairly simple game. And that has always been one of our family's activities, and super fun. One of my earliest memories is standing in the garage in Flint, in Michigan, looking at the stormy sky with my dad, and just the thunder, the lightning. I remember shelling and eating peanuts watching football games in the family room. And in my memory, the bags of peanuts were giant. And like, I go to the supermarket now and I can't eat that many peanuts. It's like insane. When I was young in Michigan, I remember ice skating. I remember having these little pins from the ski resorts that we went to in northern Michigan. And I must have been a pretty confident kid, sort of, bombing down the little slopes in Michigan, in need of humbling. After we moved to Rhode Island, Dad told me he was going to take me on a mountain so big it was going to make me puke. And I don't know why he thought that was funny, but it seemed to be consistent with his personality and his sense of humor. He took me to the top of a mountain in Vermont, I think it was Sugar Bush, when I was 8, and I just remember him and I being there, but I don't know. And so we skied down a proper black diamond from the top of the mountain, and the moguls were the size of me. And he skied to the bottom of the slope, and it took me like 30 minutes to get down it. First on my skis and then on my butt, like one after the other. And he was right. By the end of it, I did vomit. In Rhode Island, Dad exposed me to building computers. I remember building a lot of computers and fixing a lot of computers. And it was a fun thing that we did together, and it really set me up for my career in technology just from the get-go. I remember we built a wood bookshelf from scratch together for my room, and we did that in the family room and painted it red, and I had that bookshelf forever. It was just in my bedroom in the house. My dad loved boating and being out on the water, and as a family we spent a lot of time on boats in Rhode Island. And it was a lot of fun fishing and swimming. And Dad loved swimming in the water. One time he got bitten by jellyfish in Potter's Cove, and I was a little more hesitant about swimming in the bay and the ocean. But being on the boat was serious at times too, and navigating in and out of harbors and being in low visibility and having equipment failures, and I had an opportunity to grow and learn from those experiences. My parents had season tickets to the Providence College basketball games for a few years, and it was a treat to be able to go with my dad in the evenings to the games. I do remember that, and that was really special. My father loved working as a radiologist, and he provided for us. My dad made choices in his life that he and my mom wanted. And my sister and I always had more than we needed. My parents loved each other fiercely. And I'm glad you had each other. During my last trip to Michigan, my son Eli, who's studying for his bar mitzvah, was able to share some of his Hebrew practice with my dad and with Grandpa, and I know it meant a lot to him to hear Eli reading Hebrew. And it means a lot to Eli too, that he was able to do that, because he won't be at his bar mitzvah. My wife Shana wanted me to share a few stories as well, because this is just how I'm doing it today. I'm sharing some stories. Dad has always maintained that there was little purpose for hats, for knit hats. He said, if I'm cold, I have a jacket with a hood, and Shana is an avid knitter, so knit hats are kind of a thing in our household. When Dad was sick, I put a knit hat on his head, and he liked it, and he asked for his own with colorful stripes going 2 directions.
He loved it.
Yeah. Recently, I let him try on my fingerless mitts that Shana has made for me, and they have I said he could borrow them, but he couldn't have them. He couldn't keep them, and he told us, "You bear false gifts." And then Shana mailed him an extra pair of those same mitts when she got back home. In Rhode Island, Dad had a few inside jokes with Shana, a website that doesn't exist yet, and a dream about a basketball court in an architectural project setting. Oops. And Shana remembers that Dad was the original inventor of a sunscreen application machine, even though something similar was showcased on Shark Tank years later. Eli enjoyed his grandpa's sense of humor and recognized it come through even when he was sick. Eli told me that seeing Grandpa's sense of humor was when he felt like my dad's authentic self came through. Thank you, Mom, for taking such care of Dad. I know he loved you just as much. I saw Dad evolve in my lifetime in ways that showed his devotion to you and to our family. I'll miss talking to Dad about poker, investing, and computers, and he'll always be in my heart.
Oh boy, how'd you do this? My dad wasn't a perfect man, but he was pretty perfect for me growing up. I was the biggest daddy's girl there ever was. As far back as I can remember, my first 2 heroes were my dad and my older brother. My mom doesn't get enough credit for raising us, but today isn't about her strength and commitment, it's about his. My dad was a giant among men to me. I adored him. I idolized my dad and my big brother. Even as a young adult, they were my fierce protectors, role models, playmates. They were my whole world. And he had a soft spot for me. I was his baby girl, his brown-eyed girl. And as a toddler, I was his brown-eyed, thumb-sucking cooey monster. To those who didn't know my dad well, he seemed to be a kind, quiet, and reserved man. In truth, As those who knew him quite well, he was actually very vocal and especially silly. He reveled in and expressed a variety of humor, and his particular brand of silliness and playfulness might be one of my favorite things about him, maybe because it felt reserved just for us. My dad loved the movie Caddyshack. He introduced us to great comedy movies. One Passover, we watched Robin Williams live on Broadway, the comedy special, at our friend Steve and Judy's house. May their memories be a blessing. Dad and Steve were beat red and roaring with laughter through the whole comedy special. Just 2 weeks ago, on our last visit, Dad created a fondness for a stuffed dog that I had gotten for Mom a long time ago during one of her heart attacks. Dad named the dog Scout, napped with the dog, and pet the dog. He especially didn't like when I tossed Scout to the side to sit down. He had me pick it back up and pet him. He was silly with a stuffed animal even then. He was obviously the oldest brother. He teased and taunted us as little kids in his play. We would wrestle. He would wrestle our giant schnauzer. And when I was a toddler, he would play Beat Up Bunny. This is a satin stuffed bunny I had with a rattle in it. And one time he put me in their biggest spaghetti pot on the living room floor and threatened to cook me. But we'd always get him back. There's so many pictures of Daniel and I sitting on Dad's back, pinning him down. There's endless stories of silliness and antics, many of which have carried on. My eldest daughter was quacking fondly in remembrance of her grandfather shortly after his passing. Grandpa, Zoey wanted me to pass along a message. His stubbornness and silliness, I assure you, will continue to live on in his girls' hearts and deeds. My dad loved Rhode Island, the ocean, the water, and his boats. I think I took Rhode Island for granted until I went to college in West Hartford, Connecticut, and was surrounded completely by trees with no water in sight, a view my mind couldn't accept or was not used to, so my mind would imagine the endless tree line as the water on the horizon that I was accustomed to growing up with near the bay in Warwick, Rhode Island. My dad never took Rhode Island for granted. He reveled in all it had to offer. I asked him recently, and he said it was one of his favorite places he's lived. My dad loved the water. Whether we went to the beach, the pool, or swam out the back of the boat, he was like a fish. He used to swim under me when I was little like a shark and come to the surface with me riding on his back. We were fortunate enough to spend vacations on Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, my favorite, the Cape, Montauk, Newport, and other destinations. My cousin Ilana would join us often for these summer excursions, and we'd have too much fun. Watching 4th of July fireworks and the Blue Angels from the boat was a privileged favorite pastime of ours, except maybe for Mom, who often got seasick or whose feet had bad luck with anchors and stairs. We also spent time as a family in winter vacation skiing. I remember one trip, all of us laughing so hard in a pizza restaurant until we couldn't breathe or remember what was so funny in the first place. My dad and I had special walks and special midnight snacks. He'd take me for ice cream, we'd share brownie sundaes, and he fed me Wendy's Frosties in bed when I got my wisdom teeth out. He was also a man of faith. My happiest memories of going to synagogue involves the high holidays sitting under my dad's tallis with my brother right next to me to exchange looks and inside jokes with. Just me, sandwiched between my two favorite guys for hours. My dad was also a Mason, something that mystified me. I'd read Dan Brown books and watch movies like National Treasure, and then I would try to get my dad to share secrets with me that I was convinced that he knew. He handed me all of his little blue Masonic books and said I could decode them for myself. That was far less interesting than I had hoped. Dad was proud of being a Mason. I think while he might not have been entirely disciplined himself, he had high principles, high standards, and certainly lived by a code of ethics that I admired. He was a good friend, a devoted and passionate husband, an adoring son, a beloved brother, and a loving dad. My dad had a big group of guy friends. He'd host poker nights at our house every so often. Dad was friends with guys from all walks of life. I don't still know the story of the guy from North Providence. Dad played poker, bridge, cribbage, and backgammon. In the last decade, backgammon has become a common family activity. I've cherished the time that we've spent playing backgammon together. He loves sports. He played tennis and golf. We watched college basketball, the Red Sox, and the Patriots religiously. For my 21st birthday, Dad brought us to a Red Sox game, and we had amazing seats. And it ended up being the game that the rookie pitcher, Clay Buchholz, pitched a no-hitter on his first MLB appearance. It was amazing, unforgettable. I had 2 medical leaves in college that were physically and mentally demoralizing, but my dad had plenty of wonderful sports aphorisms to motivate me. I wrote them down on Post-it notes in his office one day and kept them on my desk for years. We also grew up with Dad waking us up in the middle of the night every so often when we were young so he could share his fascination and love of astronomy with us. There's definitely nothing more special than breaking bedtime rules to go adventuring with your dad to see a comet or meteor shower in the middle of nowhere in the still of the night. There's so much more to say, but it's getting harder and harder to find the words. Every time I close my eyes, I think of another inside joke we shared, a moment we had, a family memory we made. Dad and I had a silly, special way of saying goodbye on the phone. Our version of hang up, no, you hang up. So, bye-bye, Daddy. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
I have no words to add to that, just to take all that in. And while you're taking that in, I want to address everybody else. You spoke about your dad's commitment to Judaism, the synagogue, and conservative shul. While we're catching our breath, I want to just offer a teaching to everybody else about the family, okay? You can listen in if you like. How to be with a family. The Jewish tradition in visiting a funeral home is to be silent. It's hard in our culture. If the mourners are sad, you offer them a hug. If they're happy, they crack a joke. If they want to remember something funny, you laugh with them. And most importantly, if they say nothing, we are not to break the silence first. the silence can stretch on uncomfortably for us, but sometimes that's what they need, is just your silent presence as you are right now. And make no mistake, every one of you is noticed and appreciated. That loving silence is the most powerful thing we can give gift of our presence. And I'm saying all this as an introduction. Having gone through mourning myself, having accompanied families, there are this initial period and people who show up and show support. But as time goes on, as the circle widens, inevitably, it doesn't get mentioned. We have a phobia of death in our society, and people won't come forward when you might expect it. The mourners will be going through their lives very much aware of Les's absence, and somebody will say, "Good morning, how you doing?" And they'll be like, "What? How am I doing?" And when I brought this up with my own life and in my work, people say, well, people don't know what to say. People are afraid of saying the wrong thing, which is a healthy concern, right? You don't want to drag people back to a hard place if they're having a good day, right? You don't want them to force them to talk about something they may not want to talk about this particular moment that you're ready to talk about it. So the respectful thing is to step back and not bring it up. I get it. But there must be a better way than just avoidance, right? Because it's not always that either. So I'm going to give you a training now of what to say if you don't know what to say. It's 3 words. How are you? That's all it takes. That's important how you say it. You want to imply that you're listening as you are right now. You're present. How are you? Pause. That's why it doesn't work by text or by Facebook. There's no real time there. No sense of that you didn't just get us in at the stoplight, like signing the office birthday card. You have to be present by phone or in person. How are you? I'm listening. I'm here. How are you? Doesn't work. How are you? And then they can say, you can talk about this, or about the pain in the left knee, or about somebody graduating. It's open-ended, right? It can be anything. So I encourage you to bring that to, as we go forward, to carry forward Les's memory and to continue to be with a family, because every moment of presence is noted and appreciated. Just a few words on behalf of Fran. Fran said they had 3 dates before the first real one, right? The third meeting was the real one. That was the first date, right? The movie and the pizza. Before that, you went to a game. You were together. You said that what drew you to Les was him talking passionately about his work. He was just beginning his career, right? You saw his real commitment and the way it enlivened him, and that he shared that with you. And you could see that, and that drew you in and set you up for your whole life. He spoke about how it was through the children that he was drawn into Judaism, through the rabbi who held events for the family, and over time that became part of the family rhythm and rituals. And much of what we just heard said so passionately and eloquently by Andrea and Daniel. And just to amplify one thing that you said, I think, Daniel, that it would have given him pleasure to see you here. That makes sense, and I just want to amplify that and to strengthen you to have the same closeness going forward as you feel right now here today. And that should be his legacy too, to be together as you are right now. And when those important moments happen, those joyous ones, the bar mitzvah, Eli's bar mitzvah, weddings, whatever it is, you will shed a tear and wish you were there, and in a way, he will be there because that will be his dream unfolding too, with you being together and celebrating. May Les's memory Dr. Leslie's memory be an enduring blessing for all the lives he made better and saved, for all the helping hands he trained, for all the people he gave joy to, for all the blessings that are yet to unfold. We turn to the closing prayers in the chapel, to the El Maleh Rachamim, which you can find in the handouts underneath the El Maleh Rachamim. I invite you to please rise as you are able for the El Maleh Rachamim. El Maleh Rachamim shochen bamromim Hamtze menucha dechoino tachot kanfei hashechino im kadoshim uteorim kezohar harakia mazhirim et nishmat yakireinu Reb Tevye Shmuel shalach le'olamo lochein bar harachamim yastirehu beseter kanafav le'olamim veyitzror bitzror achayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato veyanuach veshalom al mishkavo v'nomar amen. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of thy presence, among the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament, unto the soul of Dr. Leslie Cohen, who has gone unto eternity. Lord of mercy, bring him under the cover of thy wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be God's possession, and may his repose be peace. And we say, Amen. Yeah. Okay, that's what I got from her. It's traditional in a funeral service to ask forgiveness for any possible disrespect that could be given in the treatment, which also stands for a broader asking forgiveness, right? Just as a symbol that we don't take it with us and whatever we accrue to let go as to ask forgiveness and to offer forgiveness. I'm going to get the name right in Hebrew. Eliezer, Raphael, Ben Yaakov V'chaya HaKohen. Yehi Zichro Baruch. May his memory be an enduring blessing.
Zoey, be seated for just a moment. Thank you, Rabbi. This does conclude our service here at the chapel. Interment will take place immediately at the family plot at Waldheim Cemetery. Upon return from the cemetery, the family will be sitting Shiva, which they would like and encourage everyone who's able to come to the Cohen residence, 6522 North Greenview Avenue, Unit 1 in Chicago, from 5 to 8 p.m., and they will be having a minion at 5 p.m. Memorials in Dr. Cohen's memory can be made to the Jackson Laboratory, the Pritzker School of Medicine at the University of Chicago Medicine. Both that information, as well as contact information for those charities, are inside the folder you received on the way in. If you want additional ones, they're available on the way out. and for those who are watching on the live stream, that is available on the funeral home website. A procession will be forming en route to the cemetery just outside our parking lot. For those who wish to join the family in procession, we ask that you obtain a orange funeral sticker to place on the inside windshield portion of your vehicle. For additional measure of safety, our staff will be placing magnetic flags on the rooftops of your vehicle as well. While in procession, please drive as closely to the car in front of you as safety permits. We also ask that you keep your bright light hazard lights on at all times. Please use your horn very liberally as you're going through the intersections, as we want to avoid any large gaps. So we'll just make sure. So you don't get lost. So we all stay together. The following individuals have been honored and asked to serve as pallbearers. Bear with me 1 second. Thank you, friends, for your patience. The following individuals, when I call your name, you could please stand next to Dr. Cohen's casket. Mitch, Daniel, Jeremy, Barry, Manny Millman, and Dr. Mark Migdal. If you could come, please stand. No, Jared. I apologize. Jared, not Jeremy. Again, another name mistake for which I am sorry. Piggybacking off the rabbi's apology. If I can ask everyone to please rise at this time as we escort the casket and the family from the chapel.